Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this Red Hat data science hands-on workshop that we've got planned for you today. I'm G and I'm here with Chris. Chris, you want to introduce yourself and tell us about your favorite football team?
Hey, I'm Chris Chase. I'm an application developer and I'll be helping out with the workshop today.
Fantastic. And your favorite football team?
Yeah, it's not OU.
Okay, so that's the wrong answer. So let me go ahead and share my screen so that we can get you all started with what's going on today. So the use case that we decided we want to work through today with you is license plate recognition. I know yesterday you might have seen a demo where we did dog detection. You can think of this as very similar, except instead of detecting dogs, we are detecting license plates, and then we are reading the digits on that license plate. If you're not already in the DevNation Slack, please do go ahead and join this link here. It'll take you to our DevNation Slack page. Perhaps somebody can drop that in chat for us as well. And the channel that we'll be using to help you out and answer questions throughout this lab is this Data Science Labs channel. So once you're in Slack, go into channels. You might have to click Add Channel and search for the Data Science Labs. So like I said, we're doing license plate detection. This is part of a larger piece of work that has been put together by a team here at Red Hat, thinking about the congestion zone in London. So essentially all around London, there's cameras which are reading your license plate as you enter the congestion zone. And it's doing that for a few reasons. So they can charge you money for driving. And so they can use it for things like Amber Alerts and any police reporting that is needed. So we're going to focus just on the top part of this workflow today, just the data science. And we're going to be doing all of this in Red Hat OpenShift Data Science, which is our upcoming managed service from Red Hat. So as well as joining the Slack channel so that you can ask us all the questions whilst we're going today, there's two things that you need to do. One is that you need to go to this URL here for the workshop instructions. And the second is that you need to get yourself into the sandbox. Now, if you've taken any of the other workshops today, you might already be in a sandbox, but Chris, this is a different sandbox, right?
That's right. OpenShift Data Science is still pre-release software, so we're in our own little isolated sandbox for today, just to make sure that everyone gets to use it. The environment will be up for about 2 weeks, so you get to keep on playing with it for a while to try out as much roads as you want. And but it is a separate sandbox from the other one.
Okay, so I'm going to leave these up on part of the screen, I think. Let's leave these links somewhere just so that you can see them. And I'm just going to, let's make this bigger. Hopefully they're dropped in chat. Maybe Edson can let me know that all these links have been dropped in chat so people can access them. And whilst we're on, I'm going to go and launch the sandbox. So if I click on this link here, it takes me to the developer sandbox. I'm going to get started and agree to the terms and conditions. Now, I've already got a Red Hat account. So I'm going to sign in with that. If you do not have one already for this sandbox, you're going to have to register. Log in here. And eventually you'll get to a page like this once you've registered and accepted any conditions. And you can click start using your sandbox. You will be taken to a page that looks like this. So you should be in your own project. You won't have anything deployed in topology. And in order to access Red Hat OpenShift Data Science, you're going to have to come over here to the waffle icon, this little 3x3 grid, and click Red Hat OpenShift Data Science. Then it will bring you to the Red Hat OpenShift Data Science environment. You may have to log in again to get to this screen. And from this point, you can go ahead and follow the lab instructions, which are given here. So it'll tell you what we'll be doing today and how to get started. We are around in the Slack channel to answer any questions. Chris, what have I missed?
I don't think you've missed anything, but if you're having problems, log on. Go ahead and give us a message in the Slack channel, a private message. If we can't get you on the sandbox for whatever reason, we have other backups. So you will get to do the lab today, no matter what.
All right. Sweet. Well, we'll be around. We'll leave these links up here. You can also access the links from the Slack channel. And yeah, please do shout up and ask questions. Thanks, team. Hey all, so I am hearing from Burr that maybe we should walk through the workshop together. So I'll show you what you'll be doing. I'm going to go through it a pace. Feel free to follow along. Feel free to just watch. Like we said, this environment will be up for 2 weeks and will also be in the chat for the following 2 weeks. So feel free to, if you want to come and try this out next week, you can drop us messages in there if you've got any questions or you hit a bug. So let me get back to my Red Hat OpenShift data science environment. And let me just figure out how to get rid of this. Oh, well, we'll keep it. Okay, so let's go full screen. And you all just saw me log in, but let's do it again. I'm going to start using my environment. Ignore the fact that I changed my project. You should, once you get into your environment, be on a page that looks something like this. So we're going to access Red Hat OpenShift Data Science. So I'm using this grid up here in the top right. And that brings me to this environment here. So this is our Red Hat OpenShift Data Science environment. As a data scientist, this would be the first page that I would visit. This would be I would be given a direct URL to this environment, so I wouldn't actually have to go into the OpenShift console. So if we look around here, you can see I've got Jupyter Hub enabled for me. My IT Ops team has enabled Jupyter Hub in my environment, and this is managed by Red Hat. In Explore, we can see the partner managed and self-managed softwares that can also be added to this cluster. And because we've got a load of stuff going on here, a load of different tools and technologies, maybe you haven't used them before, we've got a load of resources here as well to help you out. So you can go ahead and look at these take a look, see what resources are in there, maybe find some other tutorials that you want to do over the next 2 weeks and try those out. So let's go back to our enabled applications, and I'm going to launch Jupyter Hub. So Jupyter Hub gives us an environment to run our Jupyter Notebooks. Again, this is all going to be running on top of OpenShift. So as a data scientist, a big pain point for me is managing my own dependencies and versions and getting things to not clash and shout with each other. So what we've got here is some pre-built notebook images. So these notebook images contain a range of packages and libraries already pre-baked into them. And these have been tested so that we know that they all work nicely together. So because we're doing object detection, I'm going to go ahead and use TensorFlow today. Another thing that happens with data science workloads is that the amount of memory and requirements that you need in order to be able to run them varies greatly from project to project or from day to day, depending on what you're doing. What we've got here is the opportunity to choose a container size for my container, which is running on a pod on OpenShift, where my Jupyter Notebooks are going to be living. Now, as you can see, if you click this drop-down menu, you've got two options that are exactly the same. That's because we're on this sandbox cluster. If you were on a cluster that had been set up in your own company's environment, then IT is able to set a range of container sizes. If I wanted to add more environment variables, say I wanted to connect to data that was in an S3 bucket, so I wanted my AWS access keys and secret keys, I could go ahead and do that here. But for now, let's just start our server. So if anybody wants access to the environment and is having trouble getting access to the environment, then please drop us a message in the Data Science Labs Slack channel. Thank you to Burr for putting a little screencast in there of getting us into the hidden Red Hat OpenShift data science environment. We appreciate it. Chris, the startup time is taking longer than I've seen before. Is this a sandbox thing?
That is actually a thing that's getting worked out in QA right now. They're trying to shove down sandbox or book start times. Right now it's like 1 minute and 15 seconds, but usually it'll be like somewhere between 10 and 15 seconds. So a big difference will happen.
Okay, fantastic. So this brings you into your Jupyter Lab environment. So you can see here, you know, I could just go ahead and create a notebook. I could start typing some Python code. If you haven't used Jupyter Notebooks before, they're this fantastic literate environment that allows you to combine code and markdown, so prose, as well as the output of the code. So it reminds me of scribbling in a notebook. So I'm going to close this new notebook that I just made, and instead I'm going to come back to our instructions, which are over here. So we've selected our notebook image, and what we now want to do is get access to our workshop content. So our workshop contents is all at this GitHub URL here. I can drop that in the chat as well. And So what you can see is we've got, a Git repo, and this just links you back to the instructions there. So this is where all of the notebooks and the content lives for this workshop. I'm going to copy this URL again, and we're going to use it to clone ourselves all of these contents into the environment. So I'm using let me show you this again. I'm using the Git clone helper on the left-hand side of this drop-down menu, and I'm clicking clone a repository. I paste my URL in there, and it successfully cloned this for me. So now we can go ahead and get started. There's a load of files and stuff in here, but where you want to start is notebook 01. So there's a few things that you need to know about Jupyter Notebooks if you've never used them before. One is Shift Enter. So if you hold down Shift and press Enter, it'll execute the cell. So what that means is that it runs the cell and it prints out the resultant contents here. The other thing, so you can Shift Enter all the way through the notebook if you want to. The other thing that you need to know is, say you make a mistake, you're spinning an error, or you've changed something and something's going wrong, you can come back up to here to kernel and click Restart Kernel and clear all outputs. That sets the notebook back to having none of those cells executed, and then you could go ahead and Shift Enter through them again. You could also go up to kernel and click Restart Kernel and run all cells. Again, that will restart, so it will clear the output, and then it will execute everything for you. So that's your Jupyter Notebooks 101. Let's head over to our first license plate detection notebook. So for ease of use, I'm going to restart and run all cells. But as we step through this notebook, we do a few things. So remember, we had that notebook image that had our libraries installed into the environment. Well, we actually need a few more libraries that weren't in the notebook image already. So we install them using a pip install command here. So it adds them to our environment, and then we're good to go. We've got a load of imports here. So we're using TensorFlow, and specifically from TensorFlow, we're using Keras today. So we import this and a load of other helpful functions and tools to enable us to do our object detection. So the first part of this notebook contains some code to help you find the license plates itself. So if you think about a picture of a car, the first thing we've got to do is identify those license plates. And the next thing we've got to do is, once we've identified the license plate, read the digits. So feel free to take a look through this code yourself, have a look at what's going on. We're processing these images, and we are finding ourselves a license plate. Now, you can see here that we've got some red messages. I believe that these are caused by us not using a GPU today. So there's nothing going wrong. Our code is still working. And actually, you can see here we've got an image and we've detected the license plate. So don't worry about those red messages. They're just letting us know we're not connected to a GPU at the moment. Once we've got our license plate, we use some more code to identify our license plate number. So here you can see an example. They've taken this image. So as you can see, the license plate on this is skewed and blurry. Managed to identify it, straighten it up in some way, and from there we can go ahead and detect the plate number. So you can see it's not done a perfect job. These middle two digits are incorrect. It's got an 8 and an N, which it thinks are, was this B and M, but worse things have happened, I think. So we go ahead and test it out on a load more images, and you can see how well it's performing, see how it's coping with these skews, straightening them out and making predictions. Again, not perfect. So here we've got an N and an M. but we'll roll with it for now. Okay, so that's kind of the data science in general, what we're going to do. There's two parts to it. We locate the license plate and then we read the digits from it. So from there, you can go ahead and open the next notebook. So obviously your code that's in this notebook number 2 doesn't look like a professional application code. So what we've done is extracted the important bits of the code that you need to both identify the license plate and then read those digits from it and put them in this prediction.py. And Chris, being an app dev, has set up this WSGI file for me, which goes ahead and runs a Flask app for us. We've also put all of our requirements into a requirements.txt file. So they're going to be installed into our environment. So first up, let's install these. Okay, we've got a little error warning here. It looks like the other things have successfully installed. Let's just roll with this and see if it works. So what I'm doing here is kicking off a Flask app from my Jupyter Notebook. So model loaded successfully, it looks like it's working, and the next thing I have to do is head over to our next notebook to test that out. So I can check the status of that notebook and the status, of our Flask app, and it's returning okay, so that is okay. And we can actually curl, post an image to it using the curl command. Okay, so we post an image and we get a prediction. So it looks like it's working. It looks like it's working as we want it to. And you can also make those same predictions using pure Python code. So as a data scientist, I'd much rather use Python code in my notebooks than bash commands. So to me, this is much prettier. Okay, so that was a whistle-stop tour of the first kind of 3 notebooks for our application. So in the first one, we developed the application, we checked that it's working. In this notebook number 3, we then launched our Flask app to kind of interact so that we can interact with this model kind of as a service. But this Flask app is only available from inside our notebook environments. We couldn't access it from outside. And so what we really want to do is deploy an OpenShift service that we can post images to and get predictions for the license plate back. So Chris, should I hand over to you now?
You can. Let's give everyone like a minute or two just to make sure that everyone gets on the same page here real quick. It's
okay.
Pretty quick. All right. All right, so if you are in Jupyter Hub, you can go back to the dashboard and you can get back to the console from here. So if you need to deploy something, you can do so from here. So you can go back there and it'll take you back to the OpenShift console. So if you want to deploy your service, it's a pretty easy source to image because the repository was already buildable by S2I. So it would build and deploy right off the bat. So let's go ahead into my dev. And we'll go ahead and import this project from Git. All right, so we'll have to use the HTTPS URL. So we're importing a project from Git, take the HTTPS URL, the same one you cloned into your Git repo, and now it's recognized it as a Python application. You will want to reference
Can you
the
zoom in for
main.
me?
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm sorry. Let me do that for you. All right.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay,
Boom.
better?
So much
All
better.
right. Okay. So now I'm putting the Git reference in. You don't actually have to do this to get it to work, but webhooks automatically default to the master branch. So if we want webhooks to be installed later on, we can go ahead and do that. Now, if you guys are going to do this for yourself and you want to use your webhooks and you want to make changes to the app itself, this was probably, you can go ahead and fork the repo and use your fork instead. All right, so I could do a CF chase if I wanted to. Right, but for now, I'm not doing the changes. I'll just go ahead and do the actual repo itself from the main branch, and our context is going to be just fine. So this is pretty much it. It's already going to build and deploy. So if you create it, you can go ahead and start. Okay, so, and as you can tell here, it's going to go ahead and it'll build. Now this build will take about a minute or two to deploy. And it is running. You can view the logs. Now, if you wanted to do that webhook from your own repo, you could take a look at this build config here, and it'll be underneath the build config. And so this isn't part, so it would be here where you put it into GitHub. It's not really part of the workshop, so I won't belabor your time. But here we'll go ahead and wait for it to build. And while you're waiting for it to build, you may see an image pull back off because that image isn't created yet. But as soon as it will take that container and build it. All right. And here you'll see the route that's created. And so right now you can tell it's not ready, so no application yet. But it's coming up. So if you ever get in a position where you need to restart your notebook, just to answer a question that's online right now while I'm building this file, it's under the File menu in Jupyter Hub. I'll show you right now, actually, since I've got the screen. You go here, File, and then you go to Hub Control Panel, and you'll be brought to this screen, and then you can go ahead and stop your server and start it up on a new notebook for someone who is trying to restart with a different notebook image. All right, so you would hit stop and restart. Here it goes. It is building, and hopefully you guys are not having problems with this. Is anyone having any problems building their image? All right, almost done. All right, so what is going on here? Let's take a look at the repo. Why is it building? Okay, so that's an so if you take a look at this repo, you'll see a basic source to UI. Let me see. Here we go. So this repo is a very basic Python application. Here you've got the application itself, which is just the route for the predictions and the route for the status. And you can tell that inside the main route for the predictions, we're calling into this predict function. And that is where Sophie has put her prediction function here. And this is where it's loading up her TensorFlow model. Sorry, and this is where it's loading up the TensorFlow model and doing all the prediction code. That is reading your license plate. This is the Git repo. What is the Git repo I was doing? To deploy the app from Git. So the Git repo is the HTTPS. It is here, and it is, let me reply. So that is the Git repo. So that is HTTPS. Again, if you want to fork it, you can use your own Git repo, and you can play with it. You can make it do something else. And there's a couple of other buildable things we have in there. And so here you can see this was a WSGI. And this is a prediction file, and here is the requirements. So that is basically what is needed. Here's Flask, Unicorn, and all the TensorFlow stuff. That is basically what's needed. There's a couple of modifications here. I wanted to use the Unicorn config. to load up the Python application, and this is for the app developers out there, and I wanted to only use 2 processes, give it a little extra timeout, and so that would be a little smaller. All right, so let's go ahead and back to the deployment itself and see how it's doing. So this is the build. No, and it is done, and you can tell, let's take a look at that log. So this is the S2I build. It went ahead and created that image from the S2I base, which was the Python UBI 7 base, and it has went ahead and deployed that application as part of a deployment, right? This is a OpenShift deployment. If you're an OpenShift developer, you're probably familiar with the OpenShift deployments, and you can tell here's a deployment. It's got 1 pod. We could scale that up to 2 pods, 3 pods, and this is the pod that's going. And so that is built, and here you can tell the pod that's running. You can look at the logs here, and let's have a little fun with it, shall we? So now you can tell the logs, here it is, and the license plate, which was not available. Now my status is okay. And so we could actually play with this right here. If you want to test it from inside your Jupyter Notebook, you want to go back. Here, let's go back to my notebook here. Remember how earlier we checked out the status, right? So we checked out the status. That was the local Flask app inside the notebook that Sophie was running. Here, we could go ahead and test out the actual one. So what if we curl my deployed application? There you go, status, right? And so we want to post some data here. This is the car that was actually on the server itself. There we go. And this is our license plate from the service. And if you give me a sec, I might be able to get you some code to post to your service an actual picture that you want to upload. So give me a few minutes. If you give me 3 minutes, I will do that for you. Okay. So let's see if I can do this. I don't know if I can get this working on the fly, but I will try. How about that? You'll see some live coding here, some terrible live coding. I don't know if this will work. I'm going to go ahead and start up a terminal. I'm going to upload this. But there you go. You've got the app running, so you go ahead and play with it, and that is kind of the end of it. All right. Let's see. While I'm doing this, do we have any questions about the app itself now that you've got the app going? Unread mentions. All right, doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get that working quite now. I'll continue to work on it though, but do I have any questions now that you've deployed your app? All right.
Thanks, Chris. So we've had a few questions in the labs chat. It looks like people are getting on okay. Seeing a couple of errors that aren't ruining everything that we're seeing on our end too when I run those notebooks. So yeah, thanks for finding those. We'll sort those out going forward. How's everyone else getting on? Shout if there's anything we can help with. So Keith's asking in chat whether or not we just ignore that pip error as well. Yes, I've been seeing that error as of this morning, but everything's been, the lab still is working for me. Let me know if it's not working for you, Keith, and we'll fix that up over the next few days. I might even go ahead and file a GitHub issue right now. Keith says the lab's going well. Pleased to hear it, Keith. Thanks for spending some time with us and testing all this stuff out with us. So if there's anything else that you want us to demo, any steps you want us to go back through from this workshop, any errors you found or things you're not sure about, please shout in the Slack channel within the next 5 minutes or so that we can demo those before sort of 5 to the hour. Like we said, this sandbox environment will be up for at least 2 weeks, right, Chris? You're on mute.
Yep, and there's also some stuff inside the Quick Start which people might want to try. So you can try doing demos just like this from there. So we could do talking to Kafka, starting up a notebook, other stuff like that.
Fantastic. And we are around. We'll be checking the Slack channel intermittently over the next couple of weeks. So please do follow up, shout with any questions, queries, concerns, and let us know if anything you want to see going forward in these sessions. So if there's no more demo requests or nothing else you want us to step back through again, then I think all's left to say is thank you so much for spending time with us and hanging out. We'll be on the chat for the rest of the day. So if you hit any errors, just shout. Got any questions, just shout, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday. And it's nearly Friday, so have a nice weekend.
Thanks, everyone.